Welcome back to Comicstorian, where we tell you the current plot lines in your favorite comic books, we go over the lore in your favorite video games, we recap your favorite TV shows, and sometimes give you a little bit of history on those important characters in the world of comic book movies. If after watching this video you enjoy our content, consider hitting that subscribe button, smashing the like button, and checking us out on Patreon. Today we're going to be bringing you the Know Your Universe on Kang the Conqueror, because Kang the Conqueror is currently trending on everything due to the appearance of a potential variant known as He Who Remains. Let's get into your quick history so that you can become a comic book expert. The character known as Kang the Conqueror is quite an unusual one, as he is only one of several alternate versions of a character known as Nathaniel Richards. Originally created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, the first version of Nathaniel Richards that we meet is Rama Tut, who appears in Fantastic Four number 19 in 1963. Nathaniel Richards was a scientist in the 31st century and was originally related to Reed Richards' father. In the 31st century, Nathaniel discovered some of Victor Von Doom's time travel technology and decided that he would travel back to the ancient Egypt era and rule it as Pharaoh Rama Tut. This didn't last long, as he was discovered by the Fantastic Four, who were also going on their own little time travel adventure. He would then travel forward in time again and team up with Dr. Doom for a little while, calling himself the Scarlet Centurion. Eventually, he would try to return to his original timeline, but go much further into his own future. In this dark future, he discovered an Earth that has been destroyed by war. It is very easy to take control, and he declares himself to be Kang the Conqueror. However, he gets bored of ruling a wasteland and decides to travel back in time to take over the 21st century. This is when we meet the Kang that we all know and love. Kang would return several times to fight the Avengers and various other superheroes. During these many adventures, we would meet Princess Ravonna, who Kang tried to force into loving him. Although she spurned his advances at first, she would grow to love him and give up her life to save him. Kang wouldn't accept this though and would place her body into time stasis. The adventures would continue, and Kang would always be defeated by the Avengers, who even met a Kang even further from the future who had grown tired of his endless conquests. He had retired back in the ancient Egypt era to rule as Rama Tut, and was trying to convince his younger self to give up his crazy ideals. In the same adventure, it would also be revealed that Immortus was actually an even older version of Nathaniel Richards this whole time. Eventually, Kang would accidentally overload his time-traveling armor and kill himself, thus wiping out both the Rama Tut version and the Immortus version. Of course, you can't keep a good villain down, and Kang would be pulled from the timeline by the Beyonder to take part in the original Secret Wars event. We would also learn that because of all of his crazy time traveling, Kang had actually created alternate versions of himself, or variants, so that he will never truly be able to die. This Kang decides that he must hunt down and kill the other variants so that he can become all-powerful. Allying himself with two other Kangs, he begins to wipe out the Kangs across the multiverse. However, he is killed by the Prime Kang when it is revealed that Immortus had actually survived and was manipulating the previous Kang to wipe out all of the Kangs. Immortus would then drive the Prime Kang insane when he convinces him to absorb all of the Kang's memories. Of course, more Kangs appear, and eventually the Cross-Time Kang Corps is created, who searches the multiverse for the ultimate weapon. The Prime Kang would then recover his sanity and would fight against both the Corps and the Celestials, eventually using the Avengers to aid him. The Prime Kang would then return again, once again fighting against the Avengers and a woman known as Termitix, or Terminix, if you want to take care of some bug problems. Kang is shocked to discover that Termitrix is actually a restored Ravonna, and steps in the way of Mjolnir to save her. She places his body into stasis so that it may heal, but must revive him when his future empire is under attack by a being known as Alioth. Kang must then work with the Avengers to defeat Alioth, but also allows it to destroy the Kang Corps. Kang continues to live and realizes that one day he will become Rama Tut once again, and eventually become a being known as Immortus. And once he learns that Immortus is just a henchman for the Timekeepers, he refuses to become his future self. He works with the Avengers to defeat Immortus and the Timekeepers, and the temporal energy from the strange Divergent causes Kang, Rama Tut, and Immortus to actually become their own separate beings, and not future versions of Kang. It's all very confusing, and if you're still following along, props to you. Kang would eventually appear and mess with the timeline, and eventually we meet a child Kang that stole the armor from his future self, as well as baby Kang. The Avengers would then have to put baby Kang back into his timeline while fighting against future Kang, who was trying to attack them as infants. Kang does so much time traveling, and there are so many alternate versions of him. Another Kang from the future would then appear and aid the Avengers once more. There are too many Kangs. A version of Kang has also made his debut in the MCU in the form of He Who Remains in the Loki television series. Heavy spoilers coming in hot now for you. At the end of the series, it's revealed that the Time Variance Authority was actually created by He Who Remains as a way to stop the alternate versions of himself from waging war and destroying everything. Although he is not named specifically, which is why I'm going to say he is not officially Kang, He Who Remains is quite obviously a variant of Nathaniel Richards and is supposed to be a version of Immortus, played amazingly by Jonathan Majors. After he's killed at the end of time by Sylvie, the other variants of Richards are released upon the world, and we are given a brief view of a statue that portrays Kang the Conqueror. The official named Kang in the MCU is set to appear in Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. So there you go, the confusing history of one Kang the Conqueror and a return to an old series here at Comicstorian, Know Your Universe. Now it's time for me to ask you, the viewer, what would you like to know next in our Know Your Universe series, as we're intending to bring it back on a weekly or every other week basis, as we've returned the channel to what was the most successful for us as a company, because I broke the channel, but you can learn more about that in another video. If you enjoyed this, please consider hitting that subscribe button as we tell you all about comic book, video games, and movie lore, and don't forget to smash that like button, because if you smash it on your monitor, you may break your screen, but hey, at least you liked my video. Thank you so much for your support in continuing to allow our channel to survive, and I'll see you next time right here.